Good morning, gentlemen. All right, welcome to another Friday workshop here. Let's see. Well, looking at the names here in the room, there's one name I don't recognize there off the top of my head. So let me just ask before getting started here. Let me ask if there's anybody new to these workshops here or fairly new. And the question is, would you like to hear the workshop introduction? All right, so the workshop introduction is I'll explain what we do in these workshops, and more importantly, what we do not do here. Um, and then I'll explain how the recordings work. And then also, lastly, I'll explain the indicators here the custom indicators that I can install if you do have a question about a custom indicator there. So, yeah, all right, Perry. Yeah, you were the person I was eyeballing there. I didn't quite recognize your name here. Um, so, all right, yeah, I'll do a workshop introduction here, and hopefully that'll give us buy us some time for more people to get into the room as well. So, but also, gentlemen, while I'm doing the workshop introduction here, just a reminder, well, actually, sorry, just to let you know, there were no emailed in questions for today's Blackbird workshop. So if you have questions about Blackbird, let's go ahead and get those typed into the Q&A window there while I'm doing the workshop introduction, and then we'll get started after that. All right. So, the introduction here. So these workshops here, these are for software training purposes here. All right. So this training workshop page here, basically this is set up so that you can, join and register for for the Bloodhound and the Blackbird workshops here. All right. So again, these are for software training. So we at Shark Indicators, we are not trading coaches, so we don't provide trading advice. So these workshops, definitely, they're not a trade room. Um, yeah, it's just for training purposes here. So, all right. And next, the recordings. So when you're on this page here, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a recording section here, right? And there's these master list here. So you can see all the recordings and the different topics that were asked in these workshops here, most people like to learn, by actually seeing something, more realistic there. And these are all questions from customers. So that's probably as real as it gets, right? And so we have the Blackbird workshop questions here as well. All right. Um, so anyways, what goes into the recording list here and on our YouTube channel. So here's a link directly to our YouTube channel here. All right. And but before, what am I trying to say here? Um, the recordings here are edited. We do have a video editor that takes the time to clean them up and minimize them as much as possible. Cut out, dead air time, fumbling, or not fumbling, but adjusting indicators, setting up charts, whatever. Clean them all up as much as possible. Um, and the point is that video editing is extremely time consuming. So it can take a month, sometimes 2 months before a question actually gets listed on here. So if you do ask a question and you want to be able to watch the recording as soon as possible, what you can do, we have an interim solution there, is you can email support there and ask us, you're emailing support and essentially you're asking the video editor there to upload the recording to this secondary YouTube channel here, right? So we have this YouTube Raw channel here, and these are the entire unedited recording, the raw recording there of these videos. So that's how you can watch, a recording of your question there as quickly as possible. Is email support, say, hey, can you upload today's Blackbird video, to the Raw channel there, and we'll get that done for you. And then once our video editor is done editing as all the questions out of any particular week, it is then removed from this channel here. So this is just a temporary holding spot for people, yeah, to request the recording before it actually gets edited, and shows up, on the short list here, the short videos. So, all right, so that's how the recordings work. And then lastly, here, I haven't been asked a question about a custom indicator in quite a number of years. But if you do, the only indicators that I can install are ones that are freely available. So I don't install trial periods, and I don't install paid indicators. Yeah, so obviously Ninja Shark Indicators isn't going to go buy somebody's indicator so that we have it available. And at the same time, yeah, like I said, I'm not going to install a trial period either. So, um, having custom indicators, within the Bloodhound file or even within these Blackbird files just makes it difficult for all the other customers who want to be able to look inside these files there. Actually, you can't open up a file if you don't have all the indicators. So that's the main reason why um, I will only install freely available indicators there. So that way all customers can open every file. All they have to do is just download the free indicator here. So next here, I'm going to show a couple examples of what's considered free indicators. So on NinjaTrader's ecosystem, this is their list of vendors, so you can kind of search for specific, styles and whatnot, right? And so the filters I have here are indicators and then free to use. And so, yeah, so this website will generate a long list of freely available indicators from the various vendors there. All right, so that vendor, you go to their website, you can download this free ATR projections or whatever that is there. All right, um, so these are free. The user app share, I think most people are familiar with that. Obviously, those are all free to download there. Um, and all right, next up, these are what I would call quote free indicators. So NexusFi, they have a download section here, which you can see I'm on. But in order to download, you do have to log in, and that requires a one-time paid membership. And so once you have that membership, there's no more recurring fees. It's just a one-time cost there, and then you can download all the indicators available to you. The one exception is we do not have an elite membership, so I can't download the elite indicators here. So it has to be just the regular standard indicator section there. All right. So yeah, you can see right there, there's an upgrade to elite. So the elite membership is like double the price or something like that, or an extra $100. I don't know what it is, but in any case, we don't have an elite membership, so I can only download the regular indicators there. All right, next up is Lizard Trader has kind of the same concept here. They have a quote free indicator section here. And then they also have premium indicators, right? So these are the ones that you have to pay for on a individual indicator basis there. So I can't install those, but we do have the membership to this here. And so if we go in there, yeah, so they have what called a library membership. And as it states here, it is a one-time cost of $200. So we do have that membership, and I do have most of these downloaded already here. So, all right. And also, some of these are also found on NexusFi. So if you already have a NexusFi membership, there is a chance that you might find the most common ones here, like the super trend. Yeah, like the super trend indicators are available on Nexus 5 and a lot of the other common ones there. So, yeah. All right. So, anyways, that's the workshop introduction there. Um, and then also, so my NinjaTrader just notified me that there is an update here last week, but my Ninja just notified me just now. Um, so before starting this, that there's an update, and it doesn't look like there's anything critical, just a bunch of minor fixes, unless so if you are using the volume profile, there's a fix in there for that and some other stuff. Two other fixes there. So yeah, pretty light duty there. It doesn't look like, any rush to get this installed. Um, and yeah, some stability things. So, all right, so there you go. There is another update out there. And also, I guess more importantly, I don't see anything in here that looks like it could come even close to interfering with Shark Indicator stuff. So, or really any other vendor. Yeah. So if you do have indicators from some other vendor, I don't see how any of this could interfere with third-party indicators there. Okay, that should do it. All right, so good. Well, I've been doing that introduction there. Looks like a bunch of questions have come in. So great. All right, let's see. Christopher's up first. Oh yeah. All right. So uh Christopher is asking, yeah, how can he adjust some value? So what is this value? Where's this value coming from? More importantly, let's see, let me read your second part here. Value of an indicator. All right. Yeah. So Christopher wants to adjust the value of an indicator there. All right. That was in the second part. Um, yeah. So you can use Chameleon to do that. So within Bloodhound and Blackbird there. So let's go into the indicators here. All right. So inside the tools section here is Chameleon. And if I add that, you can see Chameleon has a scaling factor here or scaling value, and also a math an add or subtraction, right? So this is a multiplication um, formula there, and that's an addition there. So yeah, there. All right. Let's see here. Also, Christopher says, the daily ATR. Yeah, um, so the way you can adjust a actually, I just did this yesterday in yesterday's Bloodhound workshop is somebody wanted to compare the cumulative delta to 10% of the actual volume, to 10% of just straight volume there, right? So we could do, zero point 0.1, right? So that's 10% of whatever is fed into Chameleon there. So we just take the input series and go find our volume indicator. And where is it? There we go. Click on volume there. And of course, volume doesn't have any settings there, so we just click OK. So we're feeding volume into Chameleon, and now Chameleon is multiplying the input series by 0.1, 10% there. And then the next thing is, which plot do you need to use? Well, obviously, volume doesn't have high and low, right? Well, technically, it has a high, but really, volume just has a closing price. So you would just want to, you could either use the high or you could use the closing plot. one of those two plots. So that's what you would compare there. Now, how you're going to get the daily ATR, I don't know. Um, so that's something you're going to have to figure out is how to get the daily ATR into Chameleon. Um, hopefully you have a custom indicator that will do that there for you. But that's not something that Chameleon will not adjust the time frame actually, hold on. Oh, actually, I stand corrected here. All right. I I'm not positive this is going to work here, but you can give it a shot. That's right. So, yeah, so Chameleon does also have a way to pull in a secondary time frame there. And let's see here. So here's the time frame there. And note that you do have to lock the instrument in here. So, and then you can go in and adjust your time frame there. So there we go, 1 day. So you can play around with that there, Chris, and hopefully everything works out. So no guarantees uh, on this, but um, yeah. Otherwise, normally, really, so Bloodhound isn't a math indicator there. Bloodhound doesn't do the math. The indicators are doing all the math, not Bloodhound. So realistically, your ATR should be modified to provide that adjustment, whatever that adjustment is that you need there. So, um, all right, let's see here. Let me kind of clean things up a little bit here. Yeah, daily ATR. Yeah, yes, Chris. So Chris is asking, do I need to nest Chameleon with the ATR? Yes, exactly. So inside of Bloodhound, um, right, inside of Bloodhound, you'll load up the Chameleon, set all the settings up, and then nest the ATR into Chameleon there. Exactly. So just yeah. Um, all right. Okay, so it looks like yeah, we got through Christopher's questions there. All right, let me just clean those off the Q&A window there. All right, well, let's remove that, undo that. There we go. Actually, yeah, let's see. I do believe that yesterday's Bloodhound workshop was requested to be uploaded. Um, oh, actually, I always forget. I always need to reload this page since it doesn't update automatically. There we go. Yeah, so demonstrating using Chameleon to find 10% of the volume. It was the very first question uh, discussed in yesterday's workshop. So there you go. So you can watch there to get an example there of using Chameleon for doing something like that. So there you go. The first question that was discussed in yesterday's workshop there. So. All right. So let me read up on Perry's question here. So Perry's up next. Okay, yeah. So Perry has a question about the high water mark here. All right, so that's in the money management here. And there's the high water mark. Yeah, so the first question is, yeah, can the high water mark uh, rec can it use unrealized P&L? So yeah, if you check the all right, why can't I enable that? Oh, that's right. Um, yeah, that's right. When we're using NinjaTrader's, yeah, this was a recent um um addition here to Blackbird. Yeah, when you're using the NinjaTrader account performance, the enforced during live trade, which essentially that's, if you're enforcing during a live trade, that's unrealized P&L. Yeah, so that's can't be enabled there. So you have to use one of the other ones here. Um, so if we switch it over to individual mode there, now you can see now it's highlighted, so we can now actually enable it. So now we can enable um, enforced during live trade there, right? So a live trade means you're analyzing unrealized P&L. So, all right, let's see. Let me go through the rest of the question here. All right, so yeah, so the rest of the question just involves some detailing here. Um, yeah, so Perry's asking, um, does the high water mark um, actually? Yeah, actually, I guess you're not specifically asking about the daily watermark, but that essentially what you're asking about is what a daily watermark is in a sense. Yeah. So you can see here when you do enable the watermark, you have a activation uh, point here. So I think most people are going to use a fixed amount here. So you can say, okay, let's activate the watermark after $500 has been hit here. And then and then the risk management here is when do you stop trading? At how much loss, right, profit lost do you stop trading there? So there's a percent, or you can put in a fixed amount there, right? So you could say, okay, after 200 is lost, then stop trading, or put it back on 50% there. Yeah. So there you go. And as you can see, right, you can just, right, so you can turn that on and let Blackbird go trade. And then there's a couple of ways to turn it on and off, right? So obviously you can go back in and you can make any adjustments you want here. So we could just turn it off, or go in and readjust it. Or you could turn on some of the other money management capabilities there, right? And just click OK. And then once the current trade is flattened out and it moves on to the next trade, that is when the new money management rules, well, that's when any changes that you make. So any changes that you make only take are acknowledged when Blackbird is flat, after Blackbird goes flat. So you can't make changes in the middle of a trade. So yeah. Um, so all right. So that was the first question there. And oh yeah, and the other thing here that you can do, I said you can make other adjustments to the money management or risk management there. So there's two ways to do this. You can reach the account performance override here, right? So this allows you to modify any of the account performance metrics here, right? Any of those metrics there. So if you want, you could say, well, I missed a couple of trades, so I probably should start the day off. Since I started Blackbird up late, I should probably factor in those missed trades and put in $250, whatever you think it is. Um, right, and there we go. And so now Blackbird's money management is starting off with a $250 profit for the day, you know. And also you can reach the performance over here, right? So you can see on the side menu here, there is performance here. So it's account performance. And you can see right here, this is feedback here. So you can't actually edit this. This is just read only. You can hit the pencil, the edit button there, and then that opens up the override account performance window again there. So, and yeah, I must have canceled there. So let's put in that 250 again. There we go. Click OK. And hmm. Yep, there we go. Still in there. Yeah, it's not being recognized there. I'm not sure if that was intentional or yeah, it could be that this is only showing you real-time trade data there. And it's not factoring in those modifications there. So, but yeah, but most likely, you know, you probably don't want to edit the account performance, leave it in place. Um, Most likely, most people will just go in and actually just readjust the money management metrics there. So, okay. So there you go. I think that takes care of the first question there. And let's see what's up next. Hmm. All right. Yeah. So Perry's asking, does Bloodhound, when you're building systems in Bloodhound, can you only use indicators or can you use price action? So Bloodhound's not a price action indicator, right? I mean, how do you acknowledge price action, right? It has to be an indicator. Um, so, yeah, as far as candle strategies, again, NinjaTrader does have that indicator to recognize candle patterns. Um, right. So everything requires an indicator to acknowledge or to identify whatever it is. So, yeah, everything. So that's why Bloodhound uses indicators because you do have to code up everything that you want to acknowledge. So, where is it? There we go. So Ninja has this candlestick pattern indicator, right? I mean, that's the only way you can uh, um, identify, a candlestick pattern is with an indicator. Uh, so yeah, so I guess I'm not understanding what the other option would be. So what is this other option other than an indicator that you're thinking of, Perry? Um, Now, you can use custom indicators with Bloodhound. I mean, an indicator is an indicator, doesn't matter. So Bloodhound will use custom indicators. To give an example, right? I have all these Lizard Trader indicators installed, right? Those are all third-party indicators. They all work just fine. And there's a few extra, right? There's price action swing, right? So how do you identify a swing point? Right? A swing point is a price action, but the only way you identify it or show it on the chart is with an indicator, right? There. Um, yeah. Um, all right. So let's see here. All right. Looks like Perry's giving me some more feedback. Yes. So Perry's asking, can Bloodhound be used with any indicator? Yes. And of course, those indicators do have to be written correctly, and they should be coded in accordance with NinjaTrader's best practices. So there are a lot of third-party vendors out there that don't do that on purpose because they don't want their indicator to be back tested. So take that, right? Um, So, take other people's indicators, with a grain of salt, I guess. And even NinjaTrader you know, is what's the right word? Doesn't comply with their best practices here. Let's see here. Yeah. So, for example, uh, the trade detector that actually doesn't have a readable output. You can only see what it's doing on the chart, but you can't actually use that within a system. So yeah, so as long as a good rule of thumb here is if you can use a third-party indicator with Ninja Strategy Builder, then Bloodhound can read it no problem. So Bloodhound can actually utilize some indicators that the Strategy Builder wait, no, hold on. I take that back. Actually, yeah, that's right. Um, uh, uh, I don't know exactly when NinjaTrader made this adjustment, but a few updates back, they did finally make the strategy builder more compatible with um, more indicators. Yeah. So yeah, so I take that back. If you can get an indicator to work with the strategy builder, it absolutely will work with Bloodhound. So, there always used to be that exception that Bloodhound could work with some indicators that the strategy builder can't, but that's not the case anymore. So, um, yeah. So it's nice to see Ninjas making improvements there. Um, let's see. All right. And I guess I think I kind of know where this is leading here, so I should point this out. Um, so if you are a programmer, a what maybe not a professional, but a uh, DIY programmer, we do have a page here for third-party vendors and any programmers out there to help them recognize common mistakes that they might have made when writing their indicator here. So if you go to support, go to documentation here, right? That takes you to this, kind of link to everything page here, right? So there's getting started videos, right? Here's the other indicators that come free with our installer. And then there's other pages here. And here you go, developing for Bloodhound here. So if we click on that page there, and then table of contents, there's developing for Bloodhound, and that'll take us down. So here you go, common NinjaScript mistakes there. So yeah, so you might want to read through that. Just make sure. Um, I think this is a big one here. Um, although, yeah, I think NinjaTrader implemented some more restrictions, so this may not be as big of a problem as it used to be. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, there you go. There's the point. Um, is we do have this information here. So yeah. And so again, right, that's on our documentation page there, and just scroll down to the bottom and right there. So all right, let's see. Let me continue going down the list here. Let's see. All right. Yeah. So here's the follow-up. Perry says, what about drawing objects? Those are readable, but not in live trading. So, yeah, you remember it, right? It always comes down to the fine print, right? So, unfortunately, NinjaTrader has not made it possible, or they have not, yeah, they have not made it possible to guarantee that you can read drawing objects in real time. So, yeah, so that's the issue there. So we haven't implemented anything into Bloodhound or Blackbird about reading drawing objects because yeah, it's pointless if you can't be guaranteed to read a drawing object in real time. So that's the problem with it. So, um, so I'm sure once Ninja, if they decide to make that possible, which that's it's a double-edged sword for NinjaTrader because I'm guaranteed there's a lot of vendors out there that don't want their drawing objects read in real time. So Ninja's kind of stuck in a hard place there. The battle between vendors that don't want their indicators back tested, and traders who want to be able to back test, right? So, uh, all right. So let's see. Moving on here. Um, and yeah, so the next question is, does the cumulative delta work with Bloodhound? Yes, that is one of the indicators um, that does work with Bloodhound there. All right. And simply put, when you open up Bloodhound and you open up the select indicator window within Bloodhound, let's see here. Yeah, let's go into Bloodhound. Actually, I should have just gone to the side menu here. Um, so on the side menu here, let's go to the Bloodhound interface. Wait. Um, is it? Yeah, I'm just stopping myself here. I'm not sure it's actually on this page. No, okay, it's not that page. Where is it? All right. I think it might be on the properties page. Hmm. Oh, the solvers page. There we go. That should have been obvious. There we go. So yeah, under data types, um, indicator value. Oh, shoot. Okay. I thought there might have been a list here, but no, it just simply states, yeah, some Ninja indicators aren't readable. But my point is, if the indicator doesn't show up in the list here, then that means that order flow indicator is not readable. So, yeah. And yeah, so um I can also I can also pull that up with Blackbird as well. All right. So I'm going to use the profit target here and I'm going to set the mode to indicator value. And then we can open up the select indicator window here. And if we go down to the order flow, yeah, so you can see cumulative deltas on there. Volume profile is on there now. Yeah, I think one of the um, 8.1.6 updates to NinjaTrader, they finally did actually make the volume profile readable. So yeah, I yeah, these, is it developing high or is it an yeah, I think the developing ones, I think those still don't provide anything. You're just gonna have to play with it to figure it out there, Perry. Or you can contact NinjaTrader support and ask them, hey, which of these yeah, I don't think none of the plots actually are readable. I think it's only the data series that are readable here. So yeah, so they have the point of control now, readable and all that stuff. So yeah, the VWAP is as well. So those are the three there, and as you can see, the other ones don't show up in the list because they don't have anything that's readable. So yeah. All right, let's see. Next question. All right, so getting back to Blackbird here. Let me cancel this out. Yeah. All right, so Blackbird question. Can you backtest money management features with Ninja's Replay? Yes, that's exactly what Ninja's Replay is for. Yeah. So you can do a backtest on static data, on historical data, but of course all backtests are done with calculate on bar close, so you don't get any intrabar calculations going on with the money management, the trailing, and all that stuff there. Yeah. So yeah. So you can backtest this on historical or a static chart or using replay data. So Uh, correct. Yeah. So anonymous is just reiterating what I stated that, yeah, if an indicator does not show up inside of Blackbird or Bloodhound, it doesn't have anything that's readable. That's why it's not on the list, right? Doesn't do any good to show non-readable indicators, if there's no plot or data series to be read. Yeah. Um, so just a little information on the back end when you first start up NinjaTrader, there's a little utility um, uh, with Shark indicators that goes through and it reads all the indicators on, installed into your machine, and it's determining whether those indicators have some kind of output data that to read. And if they don't, it's also checking for errors as well. So as it's pulling through the list of indicators in your machine here, if an indicator generates an error while it's being inspected, or if it doesn't have any readable data, it gets left off of this master list that, yeah, that Shark Indicators generates for itself for Bloodhound and for Blackbird. Yeah. So, yeah. So if you do, I get, yeah. So the other follow up there is if you install an indicator, um, during a session, the best thing to do is just, fortunately, shut down NinjaTrader and restart it there. Um, but there is let's see, is it in here? Where is it? Yeah, there is a refresh indicator here. So if you do install, yeah, an indicator, you can just refresh that list, and Shark Indicator tool, it's just a background tool that runs in the background. It'll refresh that list. It'll, recheck that. So, and then your indicator should show up in both Bloodhound and Blackbird there. So, yeah. There's also a refresh um, inside of Bloodhound. I didn't notice it with Blackbird. Um, yeah, let's go in here and check this again. So let's put this on indicator. And if we open this up, here we go. Yep, so there it is. So there's the little refresh indicator list. Click on that, let it do its thing, and it'll, yeah, re-inspect every indicator again there. So, yeah. Let's see here. All right. Yeah. So, um, all right. Yeah. So Christopher's has a follow up here on his daily ATR question here. Yeah. So how do you compare between different time frames? The indicator has to have it built in. If Chameleon isn't working correctly, which, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Chameleon's not able to work all the time with all the changes that NinjaTrader 8 has made. You gotta remember, Chameleon was created back in NinjaTrader 7. Um, and really, Chameleon is for the most part a deprecated indicator. It's only left in there for compatibility purposes. So we're not maintaining Chameleon. We're not going to update it. Um, so the proper way to compare indicators from different time frames, say within the comparison solver, is the indicator itself needs to load up that alternate time frame. So again, it's really the job of the indicator to load up, whatever kind of alternate time frame you want to do there. So, yeah, that is really the the best way and the most reliable way to do it within NinjaTrader. So, yeah, if you notice, right, within Bloodhound, of course, yeah, Christopher's question is a Bloodhound question. So, right, if you read you'll notice that when you do put a solver on a secondary time frame, the entire solver is on that time frame, and that was really done for a reason, for reliability reasons, so we haven't implemented selecting a time frame at the input series yet because of reliability reasons. So at least that's my understanding. So um, let's see, where is it? There we go. Yeah, so we do have a multi-time frame page here dedicated to that. Oh, there's the answer to your question right there in blue, Chris. All right. Yeah, I mean, we have so much documented here that even I can't keep every single little detailed piece of what we have documented and what we don't. So sometimes I do surprise myself and go, "Oh yeah, that's right. We do have that in there somewhere." So there you go. Um, all right. Well, just to put this out there. Yes, remember today is a Blackbird question, and I know we've been dominated with Bloodhound questions, which I'm happy to answer general Bloodhound questions. But just note, I will not open up Bloodhound and do anything detailed during the Blackbird workshop. So, you um, yeah, yeah, right, Christopher. That's what I figured. Yeah, you just right. You can add a secondary data series to a chart, and then you can make it invisible so it's hidden, and then yeah, you can apply indicators on that other time frame there. Right, right. Yeah, I know that's how you're doing it on a chart there, right? But you know, NinjaTrader hasn't. While that works on a chart, that doesn't something like that doesn't work with like the strategy builder. And so yeah, and thus it kind of doesn't work with Bloodhound either or Blackbird. And yeah, like every once in a while I do get a question about how can I use the daily ATR with Blackbird when Blackbird's trading on like a 5 minute chart or a 10-minute chart. Well, yeah, you do have to um, you have to have an indicator, an ATR indicator that can pull in its own custom time frame there. And actually, let me see. I seem to recall having an indicator that could do that. No, I guess not. Maybe I saw it somewhere, or maybe I have it installed on one of my other VMwares. Um, yeah, it had a name something like CB Charlie Beta Tango, CBT, or maybe CBD Charlie Beta Delta ATR, um, something like that. Hmm. It doesn't look like Ninja's little search thing is working very well. Hmm. ATR bands. No, that's not it. It wasn't that one, but who knows? Maybe that does something there. Yeah, I don't see it. Just kind of vaguely remember it, seeing something like that in ATR where you could specify a time frame with it, but it was a long time ago. Yeah. Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Well, I am out of questions. Let's see. All right. Well, we did hit the 1 hour mark, answering all those Bloodhound questions. That, yeah, that seems to be common with Bloodhound questions. A lot more involved. Blackbird's a lot easier. All right, gentlemen. So let me throw this out there. I'm just ready for any Blackbird questions that you might have. Um, and Yeah, we don't have too many people. Actually, Randy, yeah, Randy, I just saw your name there. I didn't see you earlier. All right, so yeah, Randy actually emailed in a Blackbird question there. Um, so, all right, let's get this open here. Yeah, so Randy was wanting to see an explanation here of actually, I'm going to pull up the documentation first. Yeah. All right, so let's go to Blackbird. And the question is with a trigger, right? So the triggers are utilized within order sets, within trailing rules and things like that. So we're going to go to the order sets page here for Blackbird. And let's see. Yeah, I guess it'd be kind of nice if there was a table of contents here. But all right, we have to scroll down. Um, there we go. What? Nope. Um, Yeah, so his question is about one of the triggers here. So we're going to scroll down. There we go. So here's the trigger section here. And right, so this section here talks about all the different triggering mechanisms here, or uh, trigger condition identifiers. Triggers are basically they're identifying conditions, right? I mean, that's what trading is all about, right? Identifying some kind of condition on the chart. Um, so the specific one was the interval here. And so within the interval, let's see, right? We have different modes here to analyze. So let's say you want a 5 minute delay, right? Or a 5 point movement in the market there, right? And so, but maybe I think this is most common for time-based. Let's say you're trying to find something that happens within the first 5 minutes as opposed to finding something that happens after 5 minutes later, then do something, right? So so if you're doing something based on time, are you trying to do it within the first 5 minutes, or are you trying to do it after the 5 minute mark? And so that's what these triggers are, right? So you can say, um, you can do something after the interval or within that interval, right? And then of course, well, are you wanting to do it within the shortest interval or the longest interval? And of course, these two, longest or shortest, means that you have multiple intervals selected here. All right. So that's what the question is. Like what's the difference here between these four different modes here? All right, and you can see, right, pretty simple, basic explanation. They're nothing complicated here. So let's go to the trailing rules, and actually, no, uh, I think I might actually have a practical use for that here. So let me just get rid of that stop loss, and so let's um, all right. So yeah, let's say your first order set, all right, just goes in immediately with whatever your signal. And then the second one, might be used for cost averaging, right? Scaling in, cost averaging in there. So I think this would be probably a more practical use case for utilizing those trigger modes there. So let me select the interval here, and um, and we'll select two different two different intervals here. All right, so let's just say 10 bars, and I'll say 2 minutes. Right. So right, I'm on a range chart. So let's say um, that this if this cost averaging in order, this limit order, let's say, it's way down here. So if the market goes against you, right, you can cost average in at a better price. But let's say for some reason, you're like, well, I don't want this hanging out there forever. So we can use this cancel here. What did I? Ah, hold on. I put that in the placement. Sorry. Let's There. Let's get rid of that. I meant to open up the cancel. So let's say, all right, we don't want this limit order hanging out there forever. So let's set up a couple of rules here to cancel this limit order. And so probably something a little practical here would be, all right, after 30 bars or within 2 minutes. But this trigger, right, this trigger here determines, um, do you want to wait until the longest time period, right? So for example, after longest would mean both of these have to occur. So you need 10 bars to go by and you have to wait 2 minutes, right? So let's say if 10 bars went by within the first 30 seconds, well, that's the first one. That's the shortest, right? So that would be the shortest, right? 10 bars going by within 30 seconds. That would be the shortest out of these two intervals here, right? So the shortest would be, okay, whichever one triggers first, right? The first one to trigger is the shortest interval. And so longest would mean they all have to trigger. So if 10 bars goes by within 30 seconds, well, now we got to wait for 2 minutes to go by, right? Um, and vice versa. If 2 minutes goes by, but only 8 bars closed, well, we have to wait for the 10th bar to close before the longest interval has occurred there, right? And then vice versa, we have within. Now, of course, the within here doesn't really apply. The within would cancel our order immediately, right? Because we're always going to be within 10 bars or within 2 minutes. So the within doesn't really apply here, but it's the same thing. Are we doing something within the longest, right? In other words, this within period means both 10 bars has to go by and 2 minutes has to go by. And we have this opportunity to do something within, right? So using the within probably, um, all right. Yeah, all right. This doesn't make, this isn't really practical, but just, just to keep going here. Um, all right. Let's say, um, hold on. Um, I do need a profit target here for my example. All right. So let's set up a profit target to open up our cancel there. All right. So I have this order status changed. And you can see I have an interval as well here, right? So to make this within, triggers within, more practical here, let's say we're also going to analyze to see if this profit target, right? If our first profit target, if it gets filled, all right? So if our first profit target is filled within either 2 minutes or 10 bars, right, then we're doing something. So also, um, let's see, in any order. Let's see. All right, yeah, we would need to do, hmm, yeah, this would be simultaneously. Um, yeah, that was a difficult one to figure out there. Um, I was thinking maybe in sequence, but no, I think simultaneously there. Yeah. So the interval it's going to be true the entire time that we're within the longest interval. So, yeah, so the interval will be true within the first 10 bars and within the first 2 minutes, right? And so then, as long as this profit target gets filled within that interval time, then both conditions are true, and then we can cancel the order there. All right. So again, this is just to demonstrate uh, using the within. So, all right, there, Randy. So yeah, that should take care of it there for you. Yeah. Well, all right. Let me clean up the Q&A window there for me. All right. Well, gentlemen, all right. My board is clear, so I'm open for the next round of Blackbird questions there. Um, if you have any more. And let's see, we are 1 hour and 15 minutes into the workshop, and it kind of feels like things are slowing down a little bit. So I'll start the timer here, and I'll give everybody at least until 20 minutes after the hour, at least until then, to get some more questions in and keep things going. All right, but if there's no questions, within the next 5 minutes or six, then I'll just assume we must be done for the day and we'll wrap it up. All right. But as long as questions keep coming in, the workshop will remain open to get all those questions answered. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess, while I'm waiting here, I guess let me just take this opportunity to just kind of remind people here that, um, you know, the place and cancel, right? Those are using triggers. Um, but most commonly, right, you're going to find triggers being used within stop losses, right? Most, to make so you can create yourself custom trailing stop losses there. And so most of the time, I'd say probably 98% of the time, you're going to be using triggers within the trailing rules here, right? So here's the triggers, right? And so here's all of those different triggers there. So uh, what I'm what I'm wanting to point out here is just a reminder that if you're not sure exactly how one of these triggers operates, well, just remember there's a documentation page here, that explains all these triggers, in detail. So every setting here is explained there. Okay, so here's the interval. It used to be called delay, but it's not a delay anymore, right? Once we added the within, now it's not a delay, right? So we had to change the name. So yeah, you know, but when it was originally created, it only used the after mode, so it technically was only a delay there. But yeah, one of those nice, simple little enhancements along the way. So, anyways, indicator value, right? This trigger is basically it's like the comparison solver in Bloodhound. It checks to see is let's see, where is it? Yeah, so the mode it checks to see is something greater than or equal to or less than, right? Is is one thing above or below the other. So, yeah, and so all the others. Um, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Indicator value is like the threshold solver. you're checking to see if is it greater than some number, than a numbered value. Yeah, sorry. The price versus indicator is like the comparison solver. There we go. Yeah, see, you have input A, input B, and you can check to see is, A above B or is A below B, things of that nature, right? So again, my point is, right, all the triggers are, fully explained here. Um, on, just to remind you, this is in the order sets page, right? Because it's only the order sets that have triggers, right? Triggers don't apply to money management or scheduling, anything of that nature. So, yeah, yeah. So everything within the order sets section of the Blackbird interface is on this page. Yeah, there we go. All right, gentlemen. Well, while I've been talking, I've been burning up that 5 minute time period to get some more questions in. So, all right. So there's about another minute or so to get some questions in and keep things going. So, got a last call to get those questions in. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to call it. I think we're out of questions for today. So just a reminder, if you do have questions that you want answered in these workshops, you can always email them in ahead of time. And just in the subject line of your email, just put in, something like workshop question. So, right, that'll tell us what your intention is with the email there. And I'll hold on to it until the next workshop rolls around. Um, yeah. And let's see. No, I don't think I have anything else to mention. So with that, gentlemen, all right, have a good rest of your Friday and a good coming weekend just around the corner or tomorrow. All right, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.